So when you think about the Amazon rainforest, what's the first image that comes into your head? For most of us, it's probably, the ultimate wild, untouched place.
Exactly. It's this classic, powerful narrative of a virgin forest,
Hmm.
a vast green wilderness, maybe with a few small scattered tribes, but nothing more.
Right. The story goes that big history, the kind with complex societies and huge infrastructure projects, that stuff just didn't happen there.
And that image, as potent as it is one of the most fundamentally incorrect assumptions we have about history. The idea that the Amazon was just this empty space waiting for the modern world has really held back our understanding for decades. It's a myth.
And today, we're going to dive into the data that just completely demolishes that myth. We're proposing a radical counter idea, and it's based on hard evidence. A lost world, a civilization so huge and complex that the researchers who found it, their first thought was, this is the Amazon's version of ancient Rome.
And this isn't theory anymore. It's not speculation. We're talking about a real urban landscape. It was found in the Upano Valley in eastern Ecuador, and it's been hidden from us for, what, 2,500 years?
So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack exactly how this ancient metropolis was discovered. We'll look at what its incredible infrastructure tells us about the people who built it, and maybe the biggest question of all, why it was so completely erased from history. Let's start with just how hard it is to find anything in the jungle.
Well, traditional archaeology, it relies on being able to see things, to excavate. In the Amazon, that's almost a cruel joke. The jungle grows so fast, so thick.
Yeah.
The canopy, the roots, it acts like a historical erasure. Anything humans build is just swallowed.
I read somewhere in the sources that you could literally be standing on top of a huge pyramid
Oh, absolutely.
and you would have no idea because it's just covered in 50 feet of trees and dirt.
Exactly. So digging, doing surface
Yeah.
surveys, it's slow, it's expensive, and most of the time you find nothing.
Which is why the early work was so difficult. I mean, the archaeologist Stephen Rostain, he suspected something was there for decades, right?
He did. He and his teams, they'd been in the Opano Valley for a long, long time. They kept finding little things, bits of pottery, parts of small walls. There were hints of something major, but they just couldn't prove it. Not with the old methods. They needed a way to, well, to see through the trees.
And this is where the tech comes in. This is the game changer. The key to it all was an aerial scanning technique called LiDAR.
LiDAR. It stands for Light Detection and Ranging. It's basically a high-tech laser scanner you fly on a plane or a helicopter, and it's really the only way to map the Amazon floor on a large scale.
Explain how it works because it's not just like taking a picture from the sky, is it?
No, not at all. The sensor fires millions of laser pulses down towards the ground every single second. Those pulses hit everything, a leaf, a branch, the top of the canopy, and bounce back. The sensor measures the time it takes for that trip.
Okay, so you end up with this massive, chaotic 3D cloud of data points.
A point cloud, yeah. And most of it is just trees.
So how do you find the actual ground underneath all of that?
That's where the software gets really clever.
Hmm.
While most of the laser pulses hit the leaves, a tiny fraction, maybe 1 or 2%, slips through the gaps. They make it all the way to the forest floor. And the algorithms are designed to find those specific points and filter out everything else.
So it digitally strips away the entire forest.
It does. And what you're left with is a perfect topographical map of the bare earth.
Yeah.
You can see every little bump, every straight line, every geometric shape that is clearly not natural.
Things that were engineered.
Engineered. And when the researchers processed the LiDAR data for the Upano Valley, their reaction was, well, it was professional astonishment. They weren't looking at a few scattered huts. They were looking at an entire cityscape,
Wow.
a coherent, planned, engineered landscape on a scale nobody thought was possible there.
Let's talk about that scale because that's really the heart of this. What did the LiDAR actually show? How big was this place?
The first surveys revealed this huge integrated network. We're not talking about a village. We're talking about 15 distinct major settlements.
15.
15. All spread across 300 square kilometers of the valley, and they were all connected. It wasn't just a random collection of towns. This was clearly an organized system. It
Yeah.
applies, some kind of central planning.
And the centers themselves weren't just clearings in the forest.
No, not at all. The core areas had these large, rectangular earthen mounds, almost like low pyramids, often arranged around big central plazas.
Mm.
Some were probably for ceremonies, others were residential. They housed a lot of people. The estimates suggest tens of thousands living there for at least 1,000 years.
1,000 years. Starting around 500 BC.
That's right.
That kind of permanence requires incredible organization. And for me, The most stunning proof of that organization is the road system they built.
The roads are just,
Hmm.
they're on another level. What's so fascinating is that they built a standardized highway system.
Not just trails through the jungle.
No, these were wide, straight, purpose-built roads. The LiDAR shows they often had drainage ditches on the side, which tells you they were built to last, to handle all that tropical rain.
And the size of them, I mean, the sources say some were 10 meters wide.
10 meters, think about that. That is a colossal amount of labor moving all that earth. And remember, this is all being done without draft animals, without metal tools.
And you have to think about the timing here. While the Roman Empire is building its famous roads across Europe,
Exactly.
at the very same time, people deep in the Amazon are building their own massive highway system to connect their cities. It just completely rewrites the timeline of who was doing what and where.
It connects global history in a new way. It
Yeah.
proves this wasn't just some isolated place. This was a parallel history of innovation and complex organization.
But it wasn't just roads. I mean, to feed tens of thousands of people for a millennium, their farming must have been incredibly advanced.
It had to be. The big challenge in the Amazon is water management. You have these massive floods in the rainy season and then long droughts. This society engineered a solution.
The sources talk about drainage canals and agricultural terraces. How important were they?
They were everything. The terraces create stable, flat ground for planting and stop the soil from washing away. But the canals are maybe the most brilliant part. They didn't just drain water away, they channeled it, along with nutrients, to enrich the fields. They were basically creating and sustaining their own fertile land century after century.
So this is where that concept of a garden city comes from. They weren't fighting the forests.
No, they were redesigning it. It's
Yeah.
a kind of sophisticated ecological engineering. They were living with the forest, but on their own terms, molding the landscape to support a dense urban population.
Okay, so we have this massive, complex, highly engineered metropolis that thrived for 1,000 years, which brings us to the central mystery. How did it all just vanish? How was its entire history erased so completely that we needed lasers from the sky to find it?
The answer is a pretty sobering lesson in how history gets recorded. When we think of ancient civilizations that we remember, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Maya, we think of stone.
Stone lasts.
Stone lasts. Stone leaves ruins that stand for thousands of years.
But the Upano people didn't build with stone.
Exactly. They built with what they had, which was earth and wood. And in the most biologically active environment on the planet, those materials, they just don't survive.
So the process of erasure was incredibly fast.
Unbelievably fast. Once the society collapsed, the wooden buildings rot, the earthen mounds slump and erode, and the rainforest it just takes over. The jungle doesn't just grow over a city, it eats it. It pulls it back into the soil. Within a few generations, a massive city becomes nothing but a few low ridges on the forest floor, totally invisible.
The sources say it was abandoned somewhere around 600 AD or so. Why? Why would a society that was stable for so long just collapse?
Well, researchers point to two likely culprits, and they've probably worked together.
And those are
The first is climate change. Even a small, long-term shift in weather patterns, a major drought, for instance, could have been enough to destabilize their whole agricultural system. That leads to famine, to unrest. The system breaks down.
And the second possibility, the one we see across the Americas.
European diseases.
Yeah.
And what's really important to understand is that diseases like smallpox and measles often traveled way faster than the explorers themselves. They spread along indigenous trade routes, wiping out populations before a single European ever saw them. A plague could have caused a massive demographic collapse, and suddenly, there's no one left to maintain the roads or the canals.
The people are gone, the infrastructure crumbles, and the forest does the rest.
In just a few decades, history is gone. It really reminds you that what we call history is often just the history of what was built with durable materials.
So when we step back and look at all this data from the Upano Valley, what's the big takeaway? What does this all mean for our understanding of the past?
I think the biggest implication is that we have to fundamentally reset our assumptions about the pre-contact world. We have underestimated our ancestors. The Amazon wasn't a wilderness. It was a home. It was a highly managed, densely populated landscape engineered by millions of people over millennia.
It proves that history isn't finished. The biggest discoveries could still be out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for the right tool to come along.
Which leads to that final provocative thought. Something for you to consider. Given that the reason this incredible civilization was lost was because they built with earth and wood, how many other massive, complex civilizations might be out there, hidden under the world's dense forests? just because they didn't build with stone. If the Amazon was hiding something on the scale of early Rome,
Ah.
what else are we missing?